You're listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. Proud to be partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, you will get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now let's hear from the great Shane Diefenbach about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
All right, now, joined by Jason Shear, I'm Mike Luke. We have Jacob Franklin behind the scenes, along with Aiden Wall behind the scenes right there, making us look cooler than we actually are. All right, Jason, we have a lot to get to. EYBL recruiting notes. For so long, people have been asking, does Arizona actually recruit players? And we can confirm that they do recruit players, and we're going to start with Jamari Phillips. I am going to take the dub on Jamari Phillips, Jason Shear.
He had a very good weekend. So if you want to take the dub, you're not the only one taking the dub, but I understand. You need to be built up once in a while.
For sure. We tear me down to build me up higher than the 5'9" frame.
I get it.
All right. But on a serious note, we got to talk about him, though, because this is a guy that I think all the services, and I don't include ESPN, so don't at me with that because they're never at events, but all the other services, I think, have underrated Jamari Phillips here a little bit. And between his three-point shooting, his improved athleticism, and the way that he's built now, this is starting to look like a McDonald's-type kid right here, Jason Shear.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Jamari before multiple times, but this weekend was something that I didn't see from him before. I believe off the top of my head, he was 17 of 29 from three.
Right.
Right. He made 62% of his shots from the field. He went to the line. I know he's an Arizona commit, and this is going to sound like I'm biased or whatever, and I am biased, but he was the best player I saw this weekend in his class. I mean, maybe not overall. There are some other guys that were really good, but he was the best player I saw this weekend in terms of performance, and I absolutely think we need to start talking about him as a McDonald's All-American type of guy.
What also impresses me about him, though, is Tommy Lloyd, and we've heard about this from day one, and some people have rolled their eyes, some people haven't, but whatever. He said, fit is incredibly important to what I want to do. I want to be able to get players that not only, by the way, James, back the A all day. Okay. Guys, we'll get to all your comments. Appreciate this. But Jamari Phillips is everything I think that Tommy Lloyd would want. He wants a guy who can shoot the three, who can get to the hoop, is from a great background, and he can mold. This is the kind of guy that I think is probably a 2-year player, and by the time he's in that second year, he's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a really good fit, and I think the thing that is unique about him on this level is he could really create his own shot. And Arizona has not had a guy like that. Didn't have a guy like that last season, which was amazing.
Ben has been the only guy we've had in recent memory.
And he is a guy where, Jamari's a guy where he could absolutely create his own shot one-on-one, using his strength, his dribbles, all that. And he's a guy where I don't think he's one and done. It wouldn't shock me if he was one and done, but he's probably a 2-year player. And by that second year, he's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I don't really H Fuchs 451. I don't really see much Nick Johnson in him because Nick was very good. So we're not going to say that he wasn't, but Nick was clunky offensively. And Nick was a very good defensive player, and Nick could score, but you never felt that Nick had the kind of handle or the shooting that was really going to propel you. This kid's different. This kid has that handle, and he has that shooting ability. Nick Johnson to me always looked like a really good college player, but certainly not a pro, where Jamari Phillips looks like a pro.
Jamari's much smoother in his movement. Nick looked like it's not an insult. I'm trying to find a way to say it, but Nick almost looked like he had to try with all his, try really hard with all his movement, like clunky, like you said. Jamari's very natural. It all flows to him. He knows what he's going to do, what he's capable of doing. It almost looks effortless at times. There was a play on Saturday, second session, I believe, where he had the ball out to NBA range 3, if not further, the guy didn't guard him, and he just shoots a three, no big deal, and makes it. And it was just natural. I mean, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. It's going in, whatever. And I think that's also important, is a lot of times it doesn't look natural for these kids, and you wonder how that translates to college. For Jamari, this is just all natural. He's not overthinking it or anything like that.
What also really impresses me about the young man, too, is that it looks like his athleticism has taken a little bit of a jump right here. There are a couple of plays on Twitter. One of them, Jason Shearer, is actually in the background, and I would assume that Bruce Pascoe is off bothering Tommy Lloyd at the time. But there's a play where he gets the ball in traffic, and he just kind of tomahawk dunks it, where I don't know, and again, I'm just surmising, I don't know that he's doing that last year.
Yeah, his athleticism has gotten better. I mean, he's, and again, I think it's more a smoother athleticism where it's easier for him to get up. And I don't want people to think he's a freak athlete. I wouldn't say he's a freak athlete,
no.
But he's clearly athletic. He's clearly going to dunk. He could dunk on people. He's an above average athlete, which again, when you look at the roster this past season, how many guys on the roster would you say were above average athletes?
I think from a skill development perspective, he's somewhere around a 9. With the potential to continue going, because again, you can definitely tell that he and his pops have worked really hard, because again, he's got a very smooth flow to him. And as far as athleticism goes, I think he's definitely in that 7 to 8 realm. Like you said, he's never going to be Benedict Mathurin athletic, but he is certainly an above average athlete. And there's never going to be a time where you look and you're like, man, Jamari Phillips just isn't athletic. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's very noticeable right away that he's an athlete, and we've seen better athletes, and we've certainly seen a lot of worse athletes. He's where you want him to be. He really is. And for a guard, and a lot of times you get these freak athletes that can't necessarily shoot it or don't have the handle, and they're more athletic than anything. Jamari has a nice balance between the three.
Can we get, since you work for 24/7, can we expect a little bit of a bounce in the rankings for Jamari Phillips, where he's woefully undervalued at this point?
Yeah, I mean, Bossy, who's in charge of that stuff.
He was on this past week. Very good dude.
Yeah, he was at one of the games where Jamari put up 30. And so I think there will be, they never want to make guarantees, but I'll say there'll be very, very heavy consideration to moving him up. I don't know how much he'll move up, but I would be surprised if he didn't.
All right, Jason Shearer. If it was up to Jason Shearer, Mike Luke's putting Jamari Phillips probably around 18 to 20 right now. Where's Jason Shearer?
What do we have him at? What is 20%?
Like 39 or something?
I would say he's top 25.
All right, there you go. I like hearing that. All right, now, when you went up to Phoenix, I can guarantee that you stopped by a Circle K. Is this correct?
It is, 100%.
And I bet you when you went back from Phoenix, you stopped by a Circle K.
Yes, always.
And it wasn't like you had to put it on the GPS where is Circle K, correct?
Correct. There's a really nice one in Florence, believe it or not.
Kenny Abbey probably hanging out there right there. Kenny, there's your shout out, my guy. I owe you, by the way. Make sure you're not missing out on all the great stuff at Circle K, like Jason Shearer, like Kenny Abbey, and all the great deals they have. Iced coffee, 12 packs of beer for $9.99. Head to circlek.com/store locator to find Circle K's near you. Again, Circle K, it is for the people, by the people right there. And oh, geez, might think to yourself, man, this was a tough past weekend for me, or I want to improve my life right here. That's where OGs comes into play. Here's the thing, and I love the read right here. They are so much more than gummies. They are about the community. And that's what you think of when you think of OGs. Find them at your local dispensary, ogsbrands.com. Must be 21 and up to enjoy responsibly. If you're like Sheeran, you can't sleep, and it appears that you can't sleep, get OGs. Or if you just want to feel cool, check it out right there, OGs and Circle K. That'll be your one-stop shop. All right, now, Carter Bryant, top 5 kid in the country. I actually think that these two players here, and we're going to get to a portal name or two right here, so don't worry. But I do believe that Carter Bryant is, how do I put this? I actually think they are closer in value than maybe some other do because, again, love Carter Bryant, fantastic player, not a next-level athlete. I don't know that he is – I think people have this idea that he's going to come in and average 18 and 8. I don't think that that's really it. He's an NBA player. He's a great prospect. But Sheer, I think that he's probably more of about an 11-6, 12-6 guy as a freshman.
Yeah, I mean, I always say there's 2 tiers of 5 stars. There's the 5-star that is going to come in. You know they're going to play 1 year of college. They're going to dominate, be good right away, like a Brandon Miller, for instance. And
DeAndre Ayton.
Right, DeAndre Ayton. They're done. Then there's the 5-star that's going to take a little bit longer. They're still good. They're good college players. They're going to play in the NBA, but there's just a longer path to get to that ceiling. That's Carter Bryant, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that as a freshman, he's not coming in and averaging 15 and 8. He's coming in and averaging, like you said, 11 and 6. And then as a sophomore, he's averaging 15 and 8, and then he's off to the NBA. And you don't have to score a lot in college to be an NBA guy. Like Dalen Terry was drafted. He was never a scorer, right? And, Carter may not be this huge immediate impact guy. He's going to play as a freshman, but the potential, the tools and all that, they're absolutely there, which is why he'll always be a 5-star in our rankings. He's just probably going to drop a little bit among these other guys that are more physically capable of contributing right away.
Again, you guys are allowed to use the comparison, the Jason Tatum comparison. That's what you're allowed to use right there, Jason Shear.
Yeah, and I mean, Jason Tatum was probably more physically a different type of player. I think Carter's biggest issue is actually he needs to be more aggressive. Like, he's super talented. He was very passive this weekend to his teammates, which isn't an issue. He's not coasting necessarily. He's just passive and trying to get everyone involved. I mean, I watched him. I think there were a couple of games where he didn't even take 5 shots, which is great. He's already committed. Let's get the other guys involved. But you want to see it like Jamari, for instance, said, you know what, I'm scoring 30 tonight. And Carter Bryant's capable of scoring 20 points in a game. You just want to see him with that mentality of, hey, let's go get him 20 a game.
Oh, Connor Johnson in here. We have an ASU troll in here right there. You know what? You got it in baseball. I get it. We'll take the revenue sports, though. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk a little bit about some other guys. Jacob Franklin, if you could pull up some of those recruiting players that Arizona's looking at, because we also got some more names that we will be adding to the list right here. Okay. I want to talk about the point guard position and somebody that is not on this list right here. Zoom Diallo and Didon Thomas, both no-brainer recruits. You take both of them. And maybe I'm just being skeptical, but I don't think Arizona's going to get either one of those guys. Another guy that has emerged as a little bit of a name is LeBaron Filone, or Feline, as Jason Shear initially thought that it was. Shear, you and I are going to disagree here a little bit, because I would take Filone because I don't believe that Arizona is going to get the 2 point guards. Tell me that I'm wrong or tell me that I'm right.
It's not about taking him. Like, there's a recruitment involved. And so
I'll take him right now. He has no say in the matter.
You will come down here. Here's the deal that I always say. There's a lot more that goes into recruiting than, is this player good enough? Is he good enough? Probably. I saw him twice. One time he was good. One time he was all right. Obviously, the coaching staff has seen him more. But then you got to say, okay, can I, as Arizona, go into Mobile, Alabama, and land him when LSU and Tennessee were at all his games, Auburn and Alabama were at his games? Can I go into SEC country and land that type of guy? Is it worth that effort?
All right, let's talk about it. But first, Connor Johnson, I remembered you. I do apologize. Connor Johnson is an Oregon State fan. He doesn't like us because we want to leave Oregon State in the Mountain West Conference, aka the Pac, or the Pac-X as it's going to become, and move on to the Big 12. Connor, this is nothing personal, but nobody wants Oregon State. You got baseball, you can have it, but nobody wants Oregon State. Arizona has options. Oregon State doesn't have options. That's why you want the conference to stay together. Jason Shear, am I right about this?
Correct. Oregon State, I totally get Oregon State's view. Pac-12 for life.
Yeah, if you're Washington State, if you're Oregon State, if you're those schools, dude, you're all in on the Pac. You want it to maintain because, again, don't have many other options. Good job. You do have a good baseball program, though. I will tip my cap to that one.
Big
all right,
win
now.
for me this weekend on that, Mike.
What's that?
Big win on that bet for me. I told Mike I would go on Twitter and apologize if Arizona took the series. Arizona didn't win a game.
Yeah, but they were all close, though.
Yeah, and then Chip made pitching changes and blew saves on game.
Oh, you don't like Chip. I like Chip. We'll find out what's going on here. Kobe Thiel is in your camp on this as well, which doesn't lead me to believe that I'm probably right about this, but we're going to find out either way. Now, let's talk a little bit about now about some other players here that Arizona's looking at here. But first, a portal name that we might want to keep an eye on. Again, not saying that Arizona leads or anything like that, but Jaden Bradley, point guard, Alabama. I like Jaden Bradley. You don't like Jaden Bradley, but I would like to see Arizona get Jaden Bradley. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my thoughts on Jaden is I would like to see someone that could shoot better than he can. He wasn't a great shooter in high school either. But from Tommy Lloyd's perspective, I get it. You're putting Kylan next to Jaden Bradley if you land him, and all of a sudden you have two above-average defenders, ball handlers, creators, and the shooting will come from other guys, or you don't really need it because they're finding other ways to score. In terms of defense and size and all that, Boswell next to Bradley is really good. The obvious concern there is shooting, but considering how Tommy Lloyd coaches offense, if he thinks it's going to be good enough for them offensively, who am I to argue? Right now for Bradley, it's probably Arizona and NC State. From what I understand, Memphis is still hanging around, but last I heard, they're losing a little bit of momentum. It's probably NC State in Arizona right now.
Is that Jason Shear, the Jason Shear iceberg against Jaden Bradley starting to melt a little bit?
I get it. He's never going to be a shooter. If you can get over that he's not going to come in and shoot 40% from three or whatever it is, or become a jump shooter, if you can live at that and look at his strengths, I get it. I'm partial to guys that'll shoot, next to Boswell.
That's why you didn't like Dallin Terry or Dalen Terry as someone.
Well, no. I mean, he is what he is, right? Like Dalen is never going to be an offensive superstar ever, right? But you get him for the other stuff, and Bradley's similar. Now Bradley is intriguing because he draws fouls at a very high rate. Mm-hmm. And Arizona needs that type of guy that can get to the line. I would like more of a shooter. But again, Tommy Lloyd knows his offense better than I do. And if he thinks Bradley and Boswell will work together, which he clearly does, then, let's go for it.
And we're going to get to Boswell here in a second, because I think there's also, Tommy Lloyd is playing chess. Others are playing checkers. But first, also FOCO, FOCO is an acronym. FOCO is the leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise. We've had the great Brandon Sanders on this show before, and he was talking about how he got his straw hat from FOCO. Hardest hitter I've ever seen at the U of A. And again, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for everyone. FOCO always has our back for Arizona sports. They back the A, and they can have your back as well. Get the best gear around by visiting www.foco.com and use code word PHNX for all non-presale items using the promo code, again, PHNX for 10% off. Now, let's talk about Boswell in the future a little bit, and why I also like Jaden Bradley. Because again, you and I both heard the same rumors. I like Boswell a great deal. So that needs to be said first. Shout out Main Event. You probably don't listen, but you were right on him from day one. But Boswell's camp wants him in the NBA. I mean, they just do. They haven't really been, quiet about it. I mean, again, I don't want to make it out like they're being boisterous. But with Boswell, I think he could play in the league, but I don't think that he's ever going to be somebody that the league's going to drool over. So I would like to see him back as a junior, but let's just say he leaves after his sophomore year. Jaden Bradley gives you some nice insurance right there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're both on the same page. I don't see Boswell leaving after the season. I will say the coaching staff is very high on him. You never know. But if he does leave, like you said, Jaden Bradley, if you land him, would just move to the one spot. Then you're getting you have Jamari coming in. You probably get a guy out of the portal and all that. And I think you're fine. And that's another thing I get also is, I like landing Bradley as opposed to a graduate guy. I'm more partial to multi-year players because at least you can have some continuity there, as opposed to Arizona goes and gets a Courtney Ramey or a Cedric Henderson, and then you're back in that same roster spot the next year.
Oh, we got some Palace intrigue right here. The great Jacob Franklin and Connor Johnson going at it right here. Hey, man, I didn't come after you. Your beef with Mike Jacob, the ASU producer. And yes, never anybody on here, we're going to be very, very clear about this. Nobody is to ever go after Jacob Franklin. They are to go after me, because Jacob Franklin does not deserve it. I deserve it. Connor Johnson, I will break your hand with my jaw. That's how resilient I am right here. But never go after Jacob Franklin and Chad McDonald's. By the way, Chad McDonald's, new to the Jason Shear board. By the way, that's another membership you owe me right there, Jason Shear.
Look at you. Proud of you.
Just trying to help out right there. So again, Jaden Bradley, with all of this though, I think that you'll probably see some things here in the next couple weeks. As far as some transfer portal, some international names. Now, when it comes to the international names, I take all of them with all right, Connor Johnson right here. When was the last time Arizona made an Elite Eight? In the last 20 years, Arizona has made 5 Elite Eights. There's your answer right there. 5 Elite Eights. More than Oregon State has ever been to, my friend.
Are we talking Oregon State basketball smack? Because
nobody cares about Oregon State, and we're not giving you the time of the day. If you want to talk baseball, we will talk it, or you can tweet at Jacob Franklin, and he'll talk about it. But all right, yeah, let's talk about. I don't even know, where were we. I can't even remember right now where we were. Oh, let's talk some Pelle Larsson. Pelle Larsson has declared for the draft. Pelle Larsson will be back, though. I'm getting people to keep asking me, is he going to stay in? Pelle is doing what any guy who's a starter should do, get some feedback. The feedback will be that you're not an NBA player and you should go back to college, and he's going to go back to college.
Yeah, I would be shocked if Pelle stayed in the NBA. And that's not a diss to Pelle. I think everyone, including Pelle, is under the belief that he's just testing and getting feedback to, John Calipari, I always bring this up, years ago when the rule passed about declaring and coming back and all that, had everyone on his team, including walk-ons, declare for the NBA. Because why wouldn't you? Right. Like Umar, for instance, didn't declare. Why not? If I was Umar, I would declare. You get the feedback and then you come back. Like everyone should declare. And I think that Pelle is the case. If I'm going to declare, I'm going to get my feedback. I'm going to talk to teams. They're going to tell me what I need to work on. And then I'm going to come back. There's no chance Pelle's going to go and test and they're going to say, oh, man, Pelle's a first-round pick. If that happens, props to you, Pelle, because it's just not it's just not likely. So, we'll see. But I'd be shocked if he came back. If
Pelle Larsson should actually come to me and save himself some time, and I could tell him what he needs to work on. He needs to work on his handle, and it's probably too late in the game, but he needs to figure out a quicker shot. Something that's always annoyed me slightly about Pelle, and annoys is a strong word because, again, my bad, Pelle. I was wrong. Hashtag this is all prefaced by saying I was wrong. I don't understand, though, when your pops is an NBA player, or not an NBA player, but a professional, how you don't have handles or anything like that, and how you shoot a slow set shot, which basically eliminates you being able to come off screens, getting your shot off the bounce. I don't understand that, Jason Shear.
You're very mean to Pelle.
No, I know. At the end of the day, Pelle won. I lost.
I get what you're saying. And what's interesting to me is, we both agree that the coaching staff publicly oversold him a bit last year. Tommy Lloyd told us. But they are very confident in Pelle Larsson. And I know there's people around the program that think that Kerr moving on is good for Pelle in terms of distraction and focus and all that. We're going to see. Pelle's numbers have stayed the same since Utah. I still remember, and this guy isn't even on the Arizona coaching staff, when Arizona got Pelle, I got a text from someone saying he is a monster. And that was after his year at Utah. So, eventually, I think the thought process
would this be somebody on a previous Arizona – would this be somebody on a previous Arizona staff possibly?
Yes. But also, by the way, I saw a 4-star committed to Nebraska this past weekend. But I don't know why I just said that. Pelle is the belief around Arizona coaches is that he's going to take that next step. And we don't know. Maybe he never reaches that next step. But there is the belief that there is a next step. And we'll see.
All right. I think Pelle's next step, I believe Pelle, and again, my bad, Pelle, hashtag the movement is strong. The movement will continue to go strong. But again, I believe Pelle's apex is about 12-6-4, and there is nothing wrong with that. Now, Reggie Geary disagrees with me. What would that guy know? So again, I'll leave it on that one right there. Now, as far as international names go, they are big men. They are not guards. I believe that Arizona is going to replenish their perimeter domestically. Jason Shear.
Yeah, they are. I'm not giving names, but they're bigs. They're a 4 and a 5. Domestically, you're going to see. I was told when Tommy first started, and I don't think this is secret, that basically it is easier to find international bigs that will succeed than it is international guards. So I think generally when you see Arizona go overseas, it's usually going to be for bigs, unless there's a guard, and that's kind of the way that they're handling it this class as well. Unless there's someone I just absolutely do not know about. The guards is going to be ideally in an ideal world, it's Jaden Bradley, and we'll see from there. But the international are very clear big men.
Jason Shear is a Kerr Kriisa fan, correct? You are okay.
I think I think he gets a bad rap. Well,
you're a Kerr fan. It's okay.
Yeah, but I think you could replace him. How's that?
Would you rather have Jaden Bradley or Kerr Kriisa for the next 2 years at Arizona?
Jaden Bradley, because I think it was absolutely time to move on from Kerr.
All right, that's what I like. That's what I like to hear right there, Shear. All right, we also got to give the Tommy Gun some credit here. He's been beat up a lot on his recruiting. I think some of it's a little justifiable, but again, Tommy Lloyd is 61-11. I'm sitting here, so you take that for what it's worth. But we got to give him a lot of props right here. You got 3 5-star kids essentially out of the SoCal area in the past, that would originally have been in the 23 and 24 class. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. I know UCLA pretends like they didn't want any of those players and they could never play at UCLA, but these are all 5-star kids for a reason. So you got to give Tommy Lloyd credit on that one, Shear.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of warning people ahead of time. I saw a ton of players this past weekend, and there weren't any 2024 guys that I would offer. And the reason I bring that up is I don't be shocked or disappointed. Like Arizona's going to recruit D-Dan Thomas and Zoom Diallo, but don't be surprised if they miss out and they go, you know what, we're going to portal and international it, because that's what I would do. Like I didn't see any 2024 bigs or
sounds like a bowel movement. I'm going to portal and international it.
Yeah, but like Feline, I guess you could offer him, but there wasn't like that one 2024 kid. You're like, oh crap, Arizona's on him now. It could wind up being a 2-man American class. Ideally, you have a 3-man domestic class, but also keep in mind, like in the way things are now, as crazy as it sounds, 2 high school kids is a lot. It's not what it used to be because everyone's going portal and all that. And like, look at even your boy Muss. Like 18 transfer portal kids, and so
and they're all good.
Yeah, well, that's how a lot of teams recruit. So if you're Arizona and you get 2 5-star kids in 2024 and you fill the rest, and I don't know if this is going to happen. There could be other guys that pop up. You fill the rest with portals and internationals. It's not the worst strategy because that's really what most schools are doing now.
All right, we got to TLN, our guy, and BCAT, both pillars of the community, leaders of men, both of them. We do need to talk about Ron Holland here. Ron Holland's not happening. It'd be awesome. No. I know that KJ Lewis sent out a tweet. Ron Holland will not happen to Arizona. He's probably going to join the Muss Bus.
Texas, Arkansas, G League. When you figure out what those 3 schools have in common, you'll know why Ron Holland's not going to Arizona.
Right. Oh, let me ask you this. Since you brought up Muss, not me. I still don't quite understand the transfer portal strategy from Tommy Lloyd. Again, Lloyd obviously knows what he's doing. But I look at Muss and these guys that Muss lost his whole roster. Muss is bringing in like 30 kids and 5 of them are all conference guys. I don't understand why we're still so picky at this point when there are difference makers out there. That I still don't get.
There's 2 things. First of all, Muss is much shorter than I realized when you stand next to him.
Dude, isn't he? He's so tiny.
I think I'm like 3 inches taller than Muss.
Yeah.
Also, I think, we're going to bring it up. I think Arizona got really screwed on Ryan Nembhard. Mm-hmm. The strategy, the transfer portal strategy looks great if Arizona lands Ryan Nembhard, right? I mean, that's
landed though.
Right. And whatever reason, we can debate it, $5 million, whatever reason you want to say, they lost them. So the transfer portal looks like it screwed up. Their strategy screwed up. I will say, I think Tommy Lloyd is a very big believer in continuity, right? And having like Kylan Boswell is coming back this year. He was on the team.
Wait, what did you just say? Continuity?
Continuity.
Continuity, Jason Shear.
Continuity, whatever. I'm tired.
All right, go ahead.
Muss doesn't care. Muss will have 8 guys, right? Like he doesn't care about any of that. And so it's just a situation where Tommy Lloyd wants to have like Umar Ballo. He wants him back. And whatever guys they bring in, Jaden Bradley, let's say they land him, he'll want him for multiple years. Where Muss will say, you know what? I don't really like you. You can go. I'll just go replace you with the portal guy. And
it's like what Deion Sanders said. You're my son, but I don't love you.
And sometimes that works. But if you look at the teams that win titles, they're not doing this. Like Connecticut wasn't kicking guys off left and right. Like
I don't like that strategy, to be honest with you. I don't.
Yeah, I get Muss landing the talent, but you now have 6 guards. You're starting 2 of them. Let's say you start 3 of them and you go 3-guard lineup. Those dudes are going to get pissed and they're gone, and you're doing this all over again next year.
But also, why wouldn't you learn from like a Jalen Graham, ASU kid who goes there? Jalen Graham would have played at ASU this year, goes there, doesn't play, and you lose your last year.
How about this too? Do you think Devin Cambridge is going to play any more at Oregon than he did ASU? That move makes no sense. None.
We're going to preview the conference a little bit next year because I think that's a fascinating point. But Jacob Franklin, if you could pull up the possible roster for next year, and because I was thinking about this the other day, and here's where it gets a little interesting. So all of these guys have multiple years left. 2 of them because of the COVID year. We could see Umar Ballo and Pelle Larsson in a 24-25 Arizona basketball roster, Sheer. That is an underreported fact, and that's why we're reporting it right now.
Think about this. Let's say Kylan comes back. You'd have Kylan, Jamari, Carter Bryant, Umar, Pella, the internationals, an improved Henry Vasar, an improved KJ Lewis. How many better rosters are in the country?
You forgot. You missed a player on purpose right there.
You have Philly B.
No, not Philly B.
You have
look on top of Philly B right there. Come on,
Vasar, Dylan Anderson.
A much improved Dylan Anderson. I didn't want that to slide by you. Frank Caliendo is a fan, by the way.
Twin representative Dylan Anderson.
I told you. So again, all those guys could come back. That's the funny thing about this whole COVID thing. And again, why are we talking Oregon State? Nobody cares about this. We like you listening, Connor, but we're not going to talk Oregon State anymore. But that's the crazy thing, though. And if you're Umar Ballo and you're Pelle Larsson, you like college, you kind of like where you're at. You could have 2 24-year-olds in the starting lineup, and I think Tommy Lloyd would be more than okay with that.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's again, it goes back to wanting to keep the same roster and building off that. It is unique, and going back, I think it's there's 2 things that I think are underappreciated with Tommy, but also cause criticism. Number 1, it is in his mind an honor to get an offer from Arizona. He wants to make it special. Coaches, like I told you about this kid I tweeted the other day. I watched this one kid, Will Riley, 3 times this past weekend. Canadian kid, right? It was me, Tommy Lloyd, and I don't even know if there are any other coaches. Seriously. He got offered by 5 schools the next day. I know for a fact those 5 schools didn't watch him this weekend. Right? But you go and you look at the box, you go, oh, this kid at 25. I'm going to offer him. Tommy Lloyd's not doing it. And it's the same thing with like photo shoots. If you're committed to Arizona, they're going to give you the best photo shoot ever. Carter Bryant released his photo shoot with the family. Everyone's wearing it, whatever. But if you're not committing, you're not using us for a photo shoot. And it may sound stupid, but it is an honor to be recruited by Arizona basketball. And so he's not gutting this roster. And he's also very confident in his ability to develop. And I asked him last year a question similar, and he goes, I'm never giving up on a kid. Because I said, when do you know if a kid's good or not? I was
right there when you asked him that.
Yeah. I said, when do you know if a kid is good or not? And most coaches will say, I can know right away. Tommy goes, doesn't matter. I won't give up on a kid. I take a kid because I think they're good enough. And if they're not good enough right away, we're going to keep working with them. And that doesn't mean that he's not going to, go to a guy like a Demba Ball and say, look, you might be better off somewhere else. But he's not saying, you know what, you're out. You're out of the program. We're done.
Right. Now, let's talk about some 25 kids right here as well. It's fun to actually be talking about players that are being recruited by Arizona. Elsie Harrington, Giovanni Ruff, 2 top 20 kids out of Southern California. Sheer, did you watch them at all this weekend?
I watched Ruff. I watched Harrington for a half. I watched Giovanni Ruff. I don't think Tommy watched.
It's a great name, Giovanni Ruff, by the way. I
like Giovanni Ruff. Giovanni Ruff grew on me a little bit. He, the one thing I'll say about him is he has a hitch in his shot. You know what he reminds me of? He looks like him too. You know, like Lonzo Ball has that hitch in his shot.
Yeah,
the slower. Yeah, that's how he shoots. And so it's and he looks like him too, actually. But he's a good player. Harrington, I think, is smart, good, heady player. His dad teaches at UCLA, so that one may be, you know, a little difficult to get involved with. But you know, the 2025 young guys, I think there's some good ones. There aren't some where I said Arizona has to offer right away. There are actually more 2026 guys where I said Arizona has to offer right away.
Sheer, your grammar is coming into question right here.
Continuity.
There you go. Sure. Can you pull it?
We got big football news. Breaking football news.
What do you got?
Mojo Weirts is transferring.
To North Dakota State?
Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I was going to. Oh, well, obviously. I didn't just pull North Dakota State out of nowhere.
I'm actually really surprised that you know who that is, to be honest.
Not sure. I clearly know who he is right there. I will say Lamont likes him a great deal, so I'll have to see what Lamont thinks about that. Elijah Williams. Let's talk about a little bit of an Elijah Williams. 2026 kid out of Scottsdale, Monty Williams kid. There's a connection with Ricardo Foy.
Yeah.
Could Arizona possibly be giving an early offer here?
Yep, he's the one I was just talking about with the 2026. It is him and Canyon Holmes. Those are the two guys that I would expect Arizona to offer. They're both similar in that they do maybe nothing exceptionally well, but everything pretty darn good. They're young. There's a very clear connection there. The people that say Tommy doesn't offer early enough are going to look silly, I think, after this. Tommy was at every single one of these kids' games in their 2026 in-state kids. I think he learned a lesson from Cody Williams that will not be made again. I would expect both. I don't know if they're coming this week, so don't hold me to it, but I would absolutely expect both guys to get offers.
Wait a second here. What could he have learned from Cody Williams, Jason Shear? Can you elaborate a little bit?
When you like an in-state kid, you got to offer him at that point. You can't wait or play the BS games or all that.
So you think that he regrets not offering Cody Williams earlier on?
You would have to ask him, Mike. No, probably. I'd assume, right?
If Jason Shear was the lead recruiter, would Jason Shear have regretted that strategy as well?
No, not at all. We have Dylan Anderson. We have all the Gilbert Perry we need.
We got the Perry kids. We don't need Koa Pete. We don't need Cody Williams. We have Dylan Anderson. All right. We got to talk now. Olivier Kumwa, I would not expect to come to Arizona, Jason Shear.
You know, it's looking more like he's probably going to go the professional route, whether that's in the United States or not. He got an invite to the G League elite camp, which is a good sign for him. We'll see how he does there. If he doesn't perform well there, maybe they consider it. Tennessee is of the belief that he's going pro. They don't think he will transfer, but we'll see.
All right. Cord Lopez, Tabellis, would be very, very surprised if Tabellis is back.
Yeah, I talked to someone who would know very well about the status of Tubelis.
This is a good source you're talking to right here. I like it.
I feel like it's a good source that they are not expecting Tubelis to return.
Right. You know, and I mean, it makes sense when you think about it because Tubelis isn't getting better. Tubelis is what he is. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Tubelis was an All-American, but
basically the reasoning is, like the agent is telling Zoo, which is completely correct, and I think Arizona agrees with it, is if you go back to college, you're what are you improving on, right? Maybe you shoot more threes, but you're not taking like a huge step defensively where you're going to be like a lottery pick. You kind of are what you are, and if you want to go play professionally now and or delayed, you know, how much do you love college? That's really what it comes down to.
TLN, I'm going to say this right here, though. And again, I've been a skeptic on the strategy. I think that's fair for right now. But I will say when kids start, withdrawing from the draft, there's going to be other guys that emerge. I think you got to get that backcourt in order right now, in my opinion. That's why I would target Jaden Bradley right there. I'm more than okay with that strategy at this time.
I think that something you also have to keep in mind with Tommy and the roster is, let's say they get Jaden Bradley. And again, we don't know. He could choose NC State, Memphis, whatever. But let's say they get him. Their starting roster, people are going to be upset at this. Their starting lineup's probably complete. Boswell, Bradley, Pelle, the European, in my opinion at least, and Umar.
And Dylan.
Right. Well, Dylan is kind of a do-it-all. But, and so now you're looking for like a Cedric type where you come in off the bench, you're cool with the 15, 20 minutes a game. You're doing a little bit of everything, but you're not recruiting starters. And the reality is those are easier to find in the portal later in the process, that you can wait and say, you know what, maybe there's guys that are declaring for the NBA that come back and say, you know what, we can go get this kid. Because remember, Courtney Ramey declared for the NBA. He played in Portsmouth and all that. And they wound up getting him late in the process. So I think you get the internationals in order. You hopefully land Jade and Bradley. And then you're willing to wait a few weeks because you're not playing 13 scholarship guys. Arizona at that point would probably need a wing and maybe another guard. And that's
right. I would agree. Now we're going to talk about a guy who I think is an under the radar player here. But first, Tap and Bottle. Might say to yourself, Mike, what can Tap and Bottle do for me? They can help you out. Go down to the downtown location, or you can go to the Northwest location. Watch the NBA playoffs right now. You can watch Shears Knicks, who are going to lose to my Jimmy Butler right there, who is going to play them 1-on-5 this entire series. And you can drink some Four Peaks in the process as well. Check it out, Tap and Bottle. Again, support local, and these people are the salt of the earth. You'll thank me later for it. Shear, Jimmy Butler going to beat the Knicks 1-on-5?
I just want to say that we were robbed by Julius's injury. Arizona. The Knicks would have swept with Julius Randle. We agree? Yes. Okay, moving on.
Jimmy Butler, the most underrated player of this generation, correct? You're on this wagon at this point.
Yes, and you know what makes Jimmy so good is I will take his mindset over 95% of NBA players, where he's just like, I'm a dog, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. Like,
I'm taking him over Kawhi Leonard every day of the week because of that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's,
he wants to play, actually.
Yeah, like he enjoys basketball.
Right. It looks like he actually enjoys it. Now, you mentioned you didn't have Henry Vasar in the starting lineup. I believe that this is a massive, massive offseason for Henry, and I believe we're going to know what Henry is. Again, I'm not saying that he won't get better. He will get better. But I think with a guy like Vasar, you'll have an idea of what his trajectory and what his upside is by this time, or not this time, by early next season.
He's the X factor, in my opinion. Like Boswell, I think he'll be fine. Yeah, yes, he's a larger role and all that, and he still has to show some improvement in certain areas, but he'll be fine. The coaching staff loves him, whatever. Henry's the guy where he's got to take that next jump. Arizona is significantly better if a bigger, stronger, more confident Henry Vasar is on that roster. If it's Henry from this past season, Arizona's probably in trouble in the front court. They want to be able to rely on Henry. If it's not a starter, that's fine. You're giving us 20, 25 minutes a game, and you're going to be really good off the bench. And that's what they want from him.
All right, let's talk about the conference here next. But first, you need to become a PHNX diehard. All right. Now, what does that entail right here? First, go to https:/PHNX locker to grab your .com to grab your membership to receive exclusive content, discounts on all events and merch, and access to the Discord chats. And again, all kinds of good stuff there. BetMGM Sportsbook. And this will also bring you closer to Jacob Franklin. Jacob Franklin would like you to do this. And what Jacob Franklin would like you to do, you should do when you get an opportunity. All right. So again, become a PHNX diehard. Now, next year's conference. Again, I believe that it's going to be Oregon and SC, and then Arizona, UCLA. I think that those are clearly the two best teams right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. USC is going to add Bronny James. That might go down this week. And then Oregon's got a lot of talent. You never really know how that talent's going to mesh. I think Dana's kind of had an issue with that, but this team is super talented. There's no denying that. Arizona, again, they're almost a wild card in the conference, and then UCLA, same deal. They're going to have talent, but Tiger Campbell's really good. Hawkins is almost underrated by UCLA's fan base in terms of being able to, we'll just put these guys in. Dylan Andrews is great. No, like these
No.
guys.
Well, keep in mind, UCLA didn't even want Carter Bryant. If you were to listen to some people out there,
Yeah.
right? So, all right. Before we sign off, Sheer, where can they find you causing trouble, causing conflicts?
WildcatAuthority.com at Jason Shear on Twitter as well.
All right. You can follow me at Iron Mike Luke. And again, follow at PHNX Wildcats. We will be back with you tomorrow. Appreciate all of you. Oh, by the way, this is a good one right here. Ulrich Schmunch. I can never pronounce the last name. Is there anything on this?
No.
I've heard next to nothing. That's why I'm asking.
2024. In my opinion, he should go to 24. If he does, I think Arizona recruits him there. 2023, he wouldn't come to Arizona.
All right. Now, again, back the A out there. Jason Shear, can we get a back the A from you?
Back the A. Always back the A.
Back the A, baby. And again, we have Oregon State fans getting in here. That's why we're getting out. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.